Unrivaled just took a shot across the bow at the WNBA. 14 of the NCAA's best stars getting NIL deals with the 3x3 league in the middle of CBA negotiations. It means a lot. Let's talk about it here on No Cap Space. And what is going on, everybody? It's No Cap Space WBB. Andrew Hobner with you to talk about some labor negotiations, my favorite subject, while Tyler and Shawnee are on the ground, boots on the ground in Indianapolis at All-Star this weekend. We've had some great content from them already. You can find it on our social channels, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you get it. We have it for you. We're going to have some great content tonight. If you didn't watch the Stud Buds stream last night, Courtney Williams and Natisha Heideman's now viral, awesome content live stream that we've been getting of All-Star. Tyler made a cameo sometime around 1 o'clock in the morning. And unlike the company Astronomer, we are not worried about candid camera moments. So we have a bunch of great stuff. Consider joining the Ball Knowers just for the free trial if you need it. It's on nocapspacewbb.com. We're going to have the subscriber chat wide open and some other additional content for paid subscribers that is going to be there, nocapspacewbb.com. You will want to see it. But this morning was where the real news was made. Unrivaled signing 14 of the game's brightest stars to NIL deals within the league. We'll open this up. This is from Front Office Sports earlier this morning. The 14 players in question: UCLA's Lauren Betts, her sister Sienna, who's a freshman right now, mind you, and Kiki Rice. Texas's Madison Booker, Iowa State's Audie Crooks, UConn's Azzi Fudd and Sarah Strong, LSU's Flau'jae Johnson, Notre Dame's Hannah Hidalgo, LSU's Flau'jae Johnson, South Carolina's Tanaya Latson, TCU's Olivia Miles, Michigan's Silas Swords, sophomore, and USC's JuJu Watkins. Also worth noting, Sarah Strong is going to be a sophomore this coming year as well. So I'll continue on with the FOS piece. Watkins and Johnson both already had an affiliation with the league. JuJu was part of the initial $28 million investment round. Flau'jae followed Page as the second college player to sign an NIL deal with the league. All 14 players are going to participate in a multi-day summit called The Future is Unrivaled, where they will have basketball development sessions and also shoot content with the league. The earlier deals that were done for Flau'jae and Page included equity in the league. These do not, because JuJu invested as part of a seed round. She also has ownership stake in this league. And this is also an interesting thing. The NIL deals don't guarantee college players get a spot when they turn pro. To me, that was a very interesting caveat, and I'll get into why on that. But we'll continue on with the read. 2 expansion teams coming to the league in 2027. Alex Bizzell, Nafisa Collier's husband and one of the co-founders of the league, said they expect to add 6 additional players to the talent pool, but the league is not going to add to its 36 roster spots. They will likely be basically injury fill-in players, like hardship contract, type people. To me, this is a huge deal. It's a huge deal in a couple ways. I have never been one to think that Unrivaled represented a conflict of interest for CBA negotiations for the players. For those that don't know, the co-owners of Unrivaled are Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart. They are both on the executive committee of the WNBPA, representing the players. So they are across the table from Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA and their owners, called the Board of Governors, that are going to be, doing pitch combat here at the table. Now, the argument has been made in the past that this is a conflict of interest because there is a financial stake and a financial upswing, one could argue, for Fee and Stewie if Unrivaled becomes the league that takes all of the refugees in the event of a work stoppage. Now, to me, I don't think the end goal of Unrivaled was a work stoppage. I am, however, interested in what happens if Unrivaled's dissolution is part of the deal here. Like, if the question comes down to, and this is where the conflict of interest thing, can be a little bit of a concern, is like, say the WNBA comes back and says, we'll give you all of this, but you have to shut down Unrivaled and you can't play it in. to me, that becomes a point of like, okay, well, what happens to all of the investors and investments? What do Fee and Stewie do? How do you go about, a potential buyout of the league, right? Theoretically, like that is something that could be on the table here is like you could merge the leagues or buy, have the W buy out Unrivaled, but would they want to do that? And the argument for a conflict of interest to me is not in them advocating for a work stoppage. It is what happens if you have to potentially take an L on the investment if it means you get everything for the rest of the 144 plus. That is to me the interesting component of Unrivaled. But for where we are now, for the fact that we haven't even gotten to that point in the negotiation yet, the discussion that happened at All-Star this weekend really is more than anything a first salvo, which is why you're hearing a lot of the work stoppage talk come out early. That is the one biggest and boldest card the players have here, and they are working against a lot of history and also public perception as well. It's no secret that like in the 20 years before the WNBA got going, the NBA was heavily subsidizing it. I mean, that was a very clear, very obvious thing. It is indisputable that the WNBA, would not be in probably as financially solvent a place as it is now without the NBA subsidizing it. I don't think you can argue that, because while there is an argument to be made, and I think there is now, especially in 2025, that the NBA, because of it owns so much of the W, it's seen it as more of like a high functioning like profit center more than an actual sports league. And I think some of that has been reaffirmed over the last handful of years. I mean, Kathy Engelbert is the Deloitte executive, right? Like, what do Deloitte and the big four accounting firms do better than anybody else? How do you minimize your overhead and maximize your profit? And so if you take it from that perspective of Kathy was hired to oversee the WNBA as like an accounting firm for the NBA as opposed to a professional sports league, some of that makes a little bit more sense. So the caveat of the NBA's subsidization is that you can make a legitimate argument that in the last 5 years, as all of the metrics, even prior to Caitlin Clark, but supercharged with her, kept pointing to growth year over year over year over year. And there's all sorts of places where you're not willing to give the investment further. I think there is a legitimate argument to be made that the NBA, had they invested in the product properly, this growth might have come a couple years earlier and would be even more juiced by Caitlin Clark now. Like the infrastructure and the pieces would have been put into place. Because when people say the WNBA was unprepared for the moment of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, what you're really saying there is that the NBA, by extension, that owns 42% of this league, similarly was not prepared and was not ready. And so to me, two things can be true. The NBA could have subsidized this league for a long time, but on the same level, like they've also underinvested into the growth and have gotten to the growth of the league later than they should have been. I still think we're not even close to what the peak of popularity is for this yet, but you can make the argument the NBA dragged their feet on properly investing in this product. And so the argument here is work stoppage is your number one trump card to play. And Unrivaled helps you waive that, because if you want managers, in this case, the owners, to think that you are serious and you believe that all it takes is investment to drive attention into the product, you can point to the NBA's lateness in the last 5 years to this and say it doesn't really matter what you did on the front end, because what you're not doing here is taking advantage of things that can help the business product in full. And if you don't want to do that, we as players will stop playing for you and do that ourselves. Oh, and by the way, there is this league here that, 3x3 in the logistics of making it a 5x5 league, whatever. That doesn't matter in the discussion. The thing they point to is that Turner TV deal and say, that's what we can do. That is where our investment is. And that's why you're hearing so much work stoppage stuff after the first. I know there's a lot of people saying, excuse me, why would you dangle the trump card first? And to me, I think it's pretty obvious. I think they want the league to know that they're serious about this out the gate. And so Unrivaled provides a leverage point. Even if there is the little conflict of interest component, there is still a significant leverage point in here for the players to have. So going to this group now, these 14 college athletes, it to me signals that Unrivaled is telling the WNBA here, we can do this in the long term. We can cultivate these kids. We don't have the same rules you have because the WNBA can't pull in and sign players to NIL deals coming out of or while they're still in college. That is not allowed by their bylaws because it constitutes payment of a player without a franchise assigned. Unrivaled doesn't have that issue. So Unrivaled can conceivably go and lay all the groundwork with these players. And then if push comes to shove and a work stoppage starts to come, you've already cultivated the pipeline of kids to say, you know, maybe Unrivaled is where you can go instead of the WNBA. Because the argument has always been, what are you going to do in this country if you don't have us as a league? You know, are you all going to play overseas? That's not what everybody wants to do. There's not a league here that can stand next to us right now. And right now, there, as currently constructed, there is not. Like there are leagues coming online. You know, Fran Harris has the Exalt 5-on-5 league that's coming. Donna Arenda's got her 5-on-5 league that's coming in Jacksonville, whose name escapes me right now. I believe it's the Upshot. And you have Unrivaled as a 3x3 league, which, while different in terms of the game and what you do and how you play, they have all of the business backing. So all you would need to do conceivably is be able to, you can merge those leagues and make a viable alternative. And so in order to do that, you need to convince your player base that it's possible, but you also need to convince the next group of players that it is possible as well. And so by signing all of these players to NIL deals, you're building the brand of Unrivaled. You are building the brand of the player. You are intrinsically connecting them to Unrivaled before they even get into the WNBA, and you present them with an alternative in terms of what they get paid, how they live, how the league handles them, all the accommodations and the accoutrements. And it allows you to get it into players' heads that, yes, you should have these things. You know, the numbers of the league and the amount of people that are watching now, even taking Caitlin Clark out of the equation, you know, there's still enough that you have a degree of leverage with Caitlin Clark and with Caitlin being a part of these meetings and being at the table and into the idea of paying it forward for players, which I think is the purest demonstration of her power as an advocate and as a leader within this league in a way that goes beyond just statements and things you can say to the press. It feels like the players are playing this really well. And, you know, people, I have seen a lot of difference in people saying going out with the strike notice first, not a notice, but like going out with strike language first isn't the way to do it. They don't have the leverage they think they do. There's some chicanery going on with Unrivaled and you know, advocating a work stoppage to get Fee and Stewie paid. To me, this is 144 voices and 144 different sounds. However, I do think up at the top there is an understanding of how to do this. Whatever people's feelings are on the PA, and you can have them. You know, I think how the PA deals with the press, personally, I don't love it. I think there's just kind of some weird stuff in how they move in regards to how the media talks about them and critiques them, and when they decide to put out statements and how and conducting yourself in a manner that feels a little bit more professional in your interactions with media. Yeah, I have that critique of the PA, sure. But to me, I think the PA has a really smart way of handling and managing this right now. It feels like there's more cards for the players than there is currently for the league. And I think there is an understanding of what that power means for the first time. Salaries seem to be the big sticking point, which it makes sense, as they should be. The big question is going to be, If Unrivaled positions itself too well, then what happens? Because if WNBA is asking to box out the other leagues, which is what Gabby Williams already told us in media availabilities during the All-Star weekend, is that they want Unrivaled out of the picture. They want Eurobasket out of the picture. They want any off-season league, Athletes Unlimited. They want that out of the picture. And I would get that if you offered to pay the players enough that they didn't have to augment it by playing in other leagues. In the NBA, no one's going over to the Euro League because the NBA says you can't go. And the incentive for you not going is a lot of money next to you. I'm not saying the WNBA players have to be compensated as the NBA. However, the difference between living on $80,000 in San Francisco or even $120,000 in San Francisco or New York or Los Angeles is a heck of a lot different than, say, $500,000, where you can afford to live in a way that is, frankly, befitting of a professional athlete. You can make that money up now if you do a variety of leagues. But if the W wants to pay you that money, then they should reserve the right to shut you down. Now, the question is, if they do offer that, and the catch is Unrivaled has to go, what then happens? I think Unrivaled is doing a wonderful job of positioning themselves as a friendly force to the PA and a good leverage point in showing the WNBA we can get into the ranks of your future pipeline and disrupt that too if it really comes to that. That to me is good negotiation. This is hardball. And that's the thing is, we see this always with players and owners where we only seem to allow owners to play hardball and go, well, that's how they excelled in business. Players and unions should absolutely have the same ability. And we should be able to talk about it in the same way. I do think that there are limits to such things. I do think that there is a limit to being out of touch, as I think some of the men's players unions are in terms of what their responsibilities and obligations have to be relative to what they get paid. There are limits and there is moderation for these things, as there is for everything. But the moderate point here, the nuanced moderate point, the middle ground within the WNBA in this negotiation is you should want them to get paid something a little more commensurate so they don't have to go into separate leagues, because then they can give you the best product on the floor in your league. And if you are not willing to pay that, then you might need to cede the floor to somebody who is willing to do it. And that's what this negotiation is about, and why I really think Unrivaled is a great leverage point for the league. There is a question about what happens at the end of the road, and if it means the difference between Unrivaled surviving and dying. But for now, in the early stages of this negotiation, it is a net positive. And I think everyone should be watching what they're doing very, very closely. That's all we got right now. A little quick flash vid for you. Checking in at a nice quick 20 minutes. Tap in with us on socials. Tyler and Shawnee got more coming from All-Star Weekend. They're going to be at the game tonight in Cambridge. If you see them, say hey. And that's all the time we got. We'll be back for Ball Up Top and 5 Out. And we got some good content coming on the way as well from Indianapolis. So check in with us, nocapspacewbb.com. Be sure to like, to share, to subscribe, and do all of the things that we love to see you do. Until then, see y'all later.